Hello, Anna Navarro.
Hello, Brian.
It is Thursday. You were on the show today, and you'll be here tomorrow, which is exciting. Double the Anna. Let's jump right into things because President Trump signed an executive order yesterday banning transgender athletes from participating in women's sports, filling a promise that was at the center of the 2024 campaign. There are people celebrating this. There are people horrified by this. How are you feeling about it?
You know, I'm kind of like in such shell shock from the barrage of executive orders and things that have happened in the last 2.5 weeks.
Which is strategic.
Hard to fathom that it's only been 2.5 weeks. You know, I have to say, I missed just what a huge issue this was during the campaign. I missed what a huge issue this was for America. Mm-hmm. And Republicans were very successful in turning it into an issue about protecting children and danger to your children and threats to your children. You know, when I see the polls, they amaze me. It's something like 80% of America, and there's nothing America agrees on, 80% are in agreement when it comes to banning transgender athletes. You know who I first started hearing this from? Martina Navratilova, who's a friend of mine.
Right.
And Martina's been very out front about this and saying that transgender athletes should not be competing in women's sports. She's taken a lot of heat for it. She tried to tell the campaign and she tried to really sound the alarm on what a big issue this was. And really, I just don't think people on this side of the issue picked up on it at all. It was a campaign promise. Look, most of these things that Donald Trump is doing, as horrible as some of them are, he'd been saying he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I remember one time on the Bill Maher show, somebody started talking, one of the guests started talking about Project 2025. This was during the campaign. And Bill snapped at them and said, "Oh, shut up. Don't talk about that. That's just propaganda. That's just a talking point." Well, I think a lot of people thought that it was like, wah, 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 Project 2025. Trump pretended he'd never heard about it. If you go and look at it, practically every little thing he's been doing is in that Project 25, and he told us he was doing, including this. I will say I thought the visual yesterday of him surrounded by little girls, which in itself is somewhat scary, was very effective. But, I mean, you know, I'll tell you this much, though. Banning transgender athletes, which I think affects a handful of people. We're talking about something like 10 people in all of college sports affected by this. Not going to lower the price of your eggs.
No.
In fact, I just read this week that Waffle House has put a surcharge of 50 cents on each egg. So if you go to Waffle House and order an omelet, you're probably going to be paying another $1.50 for the egg. So all of this crap he's done, this barrage of crap he's done, none of it's going to lower your mortgage. None of it is going to lower the price of eggs. But, well, at least we didn't get the Super Bowl tariff because, listen, when you're putting tariffs, 25% tariffs on Mexico, you're talking guacamole, you're talking margaritas.
Yeah, you were very concerned.
And I mean, it's like my lifeblood.
Once they came for the guac.
Once they came for the tequila, I was ready to, to take up arms.
Sonny Hostin making out like a bandit with all those chickens she has. You know, the eggs are just flowing.
You know, I don't love eggs that much.
I like an omelet.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, I like an omelet. I'm not going to lie. I like a 3-egg omelet, so that's going to get pricey. But we'll
in
get
my
to
house, Al eats eggs like crazy, like if he was a fox.
Yeah.
Literally, he loves breakfast. I'm not a breakfast person, and I don't drink coffee unless it's in my house and it's Cuban coffee.
See, I love coffee. I will say, as people who watch the show, I'm usually on camera.
You always spill it on yourself.
I spill it on myself, and I have probably 4 by noon. I think is what it is. It's too much, but I also need it to keep functioning. And I've told you my daughter's allowance is based on having a cup ready for me to walk out the door in the morning, which is fantastic. So I come downstairs to a travel mug filled. She's very proud of it, and we're good to go.
It's almost child abuse, but go ahead.
No, she loves it. It's fine. I pay her like $1. All right. In other Trump news, his comments saying that the U.S. would take over the Gaza Strip, it's raised a lot of questions. It's outraged a lot of people. It was so outlandish to hear the first time. How do you think this will actually play out? What do you think the end game is here?
Well, my friends in Panama are happy. They're like, oh, my
he's
God,
moved
thank
on.
God he's moved on to some other region of the world.
Yeah,
So
Panama and Greenland are thrilled.
I really think, exactly. I really think this guy has like some sort of Teddy Roosevelt complex. I think it's all about manifest destiny and how do I, cement my name in history. Let me, have a Louisiana Purchase, have an Alaska, have a, have a Puerto Rico. Now, the question I would have is, why would anybody want to be the 51st state of the United States, given how we treat Puerto Rico? We actually have a territory, a commonwealth, where we should be focusing on giving them electricity, because the electrical grid there after Maria is still an absolute disaster and the lights go out all the time. Look, I think this thing with Gaza is so outrageous, so offensive, so despicable. The way that he talks about the people who live in Gaza, so therefore Palestinians, as if they were disposable, as if, you could move them without them having any say. Yeah, you know what? We're going to move them, put him in Jordan. The king there says that he won't take them right now, but he's going to change his mind. So we're going to, and he uses terms like we're going to clean it out. What does that mean? Yeah. I mean, I think those terms are really lacking in humanity, taking those people's humanity and self-determination away. Even Republicans who rubber stamp everything he does, some of them had negative reactions to this. Look, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Unless Elon Musk wants to pay for it. It's not going to happen because certainly something of that caliber would require congressional approval and would require funding.
Troops at some point too. I mean,
it would require
it
required troops. But it's offensive. I think it's been very offensive to certainly to people who sympathize with Palestinians, to Arab Americans in this country. And it brings me back to this, though. And I'm sorry, I guess I shouldn't be saying I told you so, but I don't care. I'm going to say I told you so, because I feel that so many people for so long tried to say to folks who were not going to vote because of what was happening in the Middle East, who were doing protest votes or voting for Jill Stein, or who were going to vote for Donald Trump. How many times did we say this is a binary choice? And let's look at what Donald Trump did. The first thing he did in his first administration, the Muslim ban. And yet here, you are, and you're not going to vote. People in Michigan, people like the Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib, who didn't endorse Kamala Harris, and who could have cost some of these states. I have a very hard time feeling sympathy for those people. And what I would like is for the same energy that they showed against Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, all of those protests, every time Kamala Harris had an event, I would go to an event for Kamala Harris and there would be people in the freezing snow protesting against her. Okay, all of that energy needs to now be channeled against Donald Trump. And I really hope that we find a way of forming an alliance so that the people, those Arab Americans and Palestinians offended by what he's doing regarding Gaza and saying regarding Gaza, and the Latinos who are so hurt and offended by what he's doing regarding ICE deportations and portraying Latinos as if we were all criminals and rapists, and the LGBTQ who are offended by what he is doing and targeting the transgender community and the African American community and women offended by what he is doing, dismantling DEI and the effects that's having, not just in government, which are awful, but also in the private sector. Somehow we need to all come together and and raise our voice, do something. We need to have an alliance and the allies of all of those groups.
You had talked about, I think the last time we did the podcast, that people weren't marching, people weren't protesting in the way that they have in the past, and you were puzzled by it. But it did seem to start this week a little bit. There around the country, there were protests about the USAID closures and firings and things like that. Do you feel like there's been a shift in the way things have been responded to, or not yet?
I have seen some protests. I've seen some
Smaller
protests
ones.
against ICE. They've been small. There was an attempt to do like a day without an immigrant type of thing, where immigrants were going to show up to work. But it can't be like that. It can't be fly by night, unorganized, small little protests. It's got to be, kind of like the Women's March, where there were millions of women and their allies marching all over the country and in Washington. I mean, it's gotta have a big impact, and people need to feel the discontent, because Donald Trump wants to be liked. Donald Trump wants to be liked. That he wants to be feared, and he wants to be on Mount Rushmore, but he also wants to be liked. One of the things he keeps telling us is, all these people who hated me before, they now all want to be my friends, right? Mm-hmm. He boasts about that. I think it's why he's going to the Super Bowl, because he thinks he's going to be greeted very warmly there.
I think he might be. What do you expect, actually? I'm curious about that. Do you think the crowd will cheer him?
I think like with everything. I think it'll be half and half. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, though, it'll be a nightmare. I mean, I've been to several Super Bowls. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me who played. Don't ask me the year. I don't know any of that. But I've been to several
show,
of them.
Anything?
Oh, yeah, the halftime show. I was there when Prince
sang
in the rain.
I was there for that, too. That was great.
The ones I've been to are all in Miami. I've never been to a Super Bowl outside of Miami. But they used to be in Miami all the time, and I would go for the scenery.
Of course. It's a scene.
And for the scene and the parties and the halftime shows. Yeah. And yeah, anytime there's a Latino halftime show, I'm there. That's my thing, If you can have Shakira doing
J-Lo
anything, please God, yes. It's a logistical nightmare.
Right, it is. I've been to a bunch of them.
The this and that. So now add to that
the president
of the United States with the motorcade and the
it's
Secret
in
Service.
New Orleans, where there was a terrorist attack. So I mean, there's a lot of.
Yeah. So I think. Honestly, I don't think it, I think it's making it about him when it shouldn't be about him. It pisses me off to think that instead of watching what Taylor Swift is doing in her box, they're going to be focusing on what Donald Trump, and I suspect Elon Musk, because, I mean, they're like at this point, Siamese twins, right, joined at the hip.
It is funny because so many people complain about Taylor being a distraction. I wonder if those same people are bothered by the President of the United States being there, but we'll see.
To tell you the truth, I'm probably going to be in flight to New York at the time. I never watch. I only watch the clips of the ads. What are you looking forward to?
I as I've mentioned on this podcast, I enjoy the gambling a little bit, and I enjoy football. So I'm excited about the game. I'm also on Saquon Barkley scoring 2 touchdowns. We'll see what happens. Oh, who's that? Saquon Barkley is the best running back in football, and he was a New York Giant, which was my team.
Is that the guy who had like the enormous Hermes Birkin bag the other day when he walked in?
He certainly might have, but I did not see it.
It's okay.
I don't focus on those things.
Does anybody know who's the guy from the Philadelphia Eagles? He had on an incredible outfit, and he had this like black Hermes bag that was about the size of your body.
It could have been. He's the best running back. He's a really good guy too. He was on my team, the New York Giants. The New York Giants refused to pay him the money that they should have paid him.
You realize when I ask these questions, I really don't.
It's for the viewers.
I
it's
really
for the
don't
audience.
care about the answers, and you don't have to go into this level of detail.
Well,
you know what I'm doing this weekend?
What are you doing this weekend?
I am going to the Miami Heat Gala.
Okay,
the Foundation Gala. So I guess Jimmy Butler's not going to be there.
No, I'm sorry for that. And someone you knew, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You love a gala.
I love the Miami Heat.
Hold on, breaking news. It was Saquon Barkley with the Hermes bag.
Okay.
There we go. See?
So I love the Miami Heat because they are so involved in the community, and I love that when a team is a good citizen,
kind of the heart of the community.
Yeah, that makes such a difference, and I think a lot of it has to do with the owner, right? The owner of the Miami Heat, Mickey Arison, is a Miamian.
Yes,
he spends half his time in Miami, half his time in Israel, but he's a Miamian. So often now you've got these billionaire owners who just kind of like chop her in for a game and chop her out and aren't part of the community. That's what happens with the Miami Dolphins. I know this because I hear my husband talk about this. Okay.
I like when you pick up with osmosis. This is
I
good.
love the Miami Heat for that.
Well, speaking about billionaire owners or former owners, you were with Mark Cuban.
Oh yes,
recently. And where did you see him? And what did you have to say?
okay, so first of all, he wanted to make it very clear that he had nothing to do with whatever. There was some big trade.
Yes, there was a huge trade
that had a lot of something or other.
Yeah,
that caused a lot of reaction.
the biggest NBA trade in history with the Lakers. But go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I was with him at an event talking about how to move forward and what do we do now. That Trump is president, and basically how do we fight back? What do we do? We were talking. He thinks it's very important for the voices to be coming from people, not from elected officials. Like if there's tariffs, for it to be the people. If there's eggs at $12 a dozen, for it to be the people, the regular people, not the talking heads, not the elected officials who really are taking the message to Americans. But he wants to see solutions. He thinks that Democrats have been terrible at marketing. He looks at everything from a marketing perspective. But anyways, I'm with Mark Cuban. This was on Sunday at it was a place in Palm Beach. There was a big audience of very important people. There were senators there. There were Congress people there. There were the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, was there. Lots of people. Lots of people. And it was like a 1 hour event. It was him and I talking, sitting on a stage on like these beautiful cloth white chairs, very comfy. And I start feeling ill. I start feeling really ill.
Oh, no.
And I'm like looking at the clock like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? Because I start feeling nauseous. I'm like, okay, can I hold it together? Can I hold it together? And I'm getting really distracted, right? Because I'm trying not to vomit on Mark Cuban, which I think would have been a viral moment.
Yeah, literally.
And and this clock is moving like molasses.
Right.
And I'm looking and it's 45 minutes have passed. I've got 15 minutes to go. I started feeling bad. I would tell you like a minute, I held it together for about 30 minutes of feeling really nauseous. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm really going to puke on Mark Cuban.
In front of...
And I literally said to him, Mark, I'm about to puke. I'm about to puke on you. I need to get up. So I get up in the middle of this speech.
Right.
Tearing my mic off.
Right, because they don't want to hear you retching.
Screaming at them, please turn the mic off.
Sorry.
As I am rushing to the bathroom, where I literally, I came within seconds of puking on stage in front of all those people. There's this norovirus thing going around, except we don't know about it.
Tell me
because
more.
the CDC. No, I'm good now. Here's the good news. You feel like you're about to die.
Yeah.
But literally it lasts maybe like 18 hours, 24 hours. But those 18 hours you think you're going to die. You think you're going to die. But the health websites in this country are not allowed to put out any communications.
Oh, no. Right.
So there's all of these
There's some really
outbreaks
severe
of
flus
things.
going on too.
There's some really severe flus. Norovirus has impacted Florida particularly hard, and people don't know about it and are not being told, what they should be doing because this, government is not allowing our health agencies to communicate with the American people.
Yeah, there were freezes on it.
It is. I mean, it's insane. And I will tell you also, look, I am so sad by just kind of like the environment in Miami right now, because a lot of these things he's doing, rescinding TPS, temporary protective status for Venezuelans, that's 500,000 people, most of them living in Miami. And my stepdaughter was telling me the other day. So I live in a little municipality within Miami-Dade called Coral Gables, which is very it's mostly residential. And her daughter goes to school near my house, and she comes all the time. And she said, the streets, the sidewalks, these tree-lined streets where you see nannies pushing strollers, and you see, housekeepers walking dogs. You don't see anybody. You don't see anybody in the sidewalks in Miami The Walmarts, the stores are empty. People are afraid. I know of people who are not going to the hospital for cancer treatment for fear. I know of people who are not sending their children to school because of fear. And so, it just saddens me terribly. And again, to all those people who voted for Trump, knowing he was going to do this, because he told us what he was going to do, I'm having a hard time mustering up the sympathy.
It'll be interesting to see when the polls start coming out and see how people are reacting to the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I wish somebody did like a follow-up documentary. Maybe I'll suggest it to somebody where they go and they ask a Latino who voted for Trump how they're feeling now. They go and they ask a Black man who voted for Trump how they're feeling now. They go and they ask an Arab American who voted for Trump how they're feeling now. Now, I will tell you, a lot of people are overjoyed.
I was going to say, most of the people I know who were Trump supporters before are, this is what we wanted, this is what we expected to happen.
The people in my family are, who are Trumpers, think he is Big Daddy, think he's the boss. They live in a bubble, right? Yeah. He made Colombia cave. Colombia didn't do anything they weren't already doing. They were already accepting deportation flights under Biden. He made Canada cave. What Canada announced as concessions to Trump over these tariffs had been announced
in December
months ago. Mm-hmm. He made Mexico cave. The 10,000 troops Mexico announced they're sending to the border, there's actually 15,000 there now and had been announced in 2021 under Biden. But they treat him like a child. This is Trump's modus operandi, right? He creates a crisis, manufactures a crisis, hypes it up. Then he pretends he solved it, beats his chest and pretends he's the king of the jungle, and all his people lap it up.
That's the problem, is people believe it. All right. On that note, before we go, I heard about a sweet note that you got.
I did.
Tell me about this.
So this was yesterday. I was flying in from Miami, and this happens to me sometimes. But I don't know that people fully grasp how hard it is, particularly at this time, to speak out. Mm-hmm. And it's very disconcerting and discouraging when so many people around me who used to speak out are not speaking out. It's so disconcerting to see so many people censoring themselves. Mm-hmm. That's when fascism takes over, when we start censoring ourselves. The fear, the intimidation, all those things are very discouraging. And sometimes I wonder, what's going to happen? What risks does it imply to be speaking out? But so I got this note from the flight attendant yesterday. She wrote it on a napkin. And she says, Mrs. Navarro, it was such a pleasure having you on board today. I really appreciate all that you do and everything you stand for. You are a refreshing voice of reason during these crazy times we're in. And so, sometimes people ask, well, who cares? What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Speaking up matters. Mm-hmm. And it matters to people because it lets them know that they're not the crazy ones. The crazy is what we are fighting against. And I think it's very important to speak up on places like this podcast, on The View, on social media, whatever platform any of us have. Some of us may have bigger platforms. Some of us may have smaller platforms. But whatever platform we have, it's important to use it. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of people who are tuning out. That's something that concerns me tremendously. People stop me every day, practically, and tell me, oh, I'm so glad I ran into you because I haven't seen you because I don't watch the news anymore, though they still watch The View. I was at the airport the other day and this gate agent said to me, he said, I haven't seen you on CNN because the day after the election, we all took a vote. In our break room, we used to have the news on all day, right. Every day. We all took a vote, and now we watch National Geographic. I was watching hummingbirds this morning. The man said to me. That seems healthy. Yeah, but it seems healthy, but here's the problem. Mm-hmm. If we are tuning out, then we are not finding out about the outrageous abuses of power that Donald Trump is instituting in America and getting away with. And if we are not finding out about them, we are not angry and we are not taking any sort of action. And we need to be able to instill some guardrails on Donald Trump by winning back the House or the Senate, or better yet, both. And if so, there needs to be a balance between tuning out enough so that you can have some joy, some peace, and and really focus on the priorities of your life, but tuning in enough so that you're not in la la land and you are ready to participate and be part of taking America back to what America needs to be, a great country for all, not just for billionaires and Trumpers.
All right. Well, maybe tuning into The View is all you need to do. How about that? There you go. Thank you for joining me today, Anna Navarro. And, tomorrow we're getting more into the Super Bowl spirit with a snack down. That's going to be good.
I'm over it.
You're cooking stuff. It's going to be good. You won't want to miss that. And
I'm not cooking. I'm making ceviche, which you cook with lime. It doesn't require. You could do it without. That way, you don't even have to turn on the stove, because electricity is. Do you like ceviche?
Yeah, I do actually. I do, kind of.
Have you ever made it?
No.
You should try it. It's really easy. It would be very impressive to the women in your life.
Okay. Well, it'd be nice to impress them for a change. All right. We will see you back tomorrow for an all-new episode of The View, and then on Monday for a new week of Behind the Table. Thanks so much.